Hey everyone, this is Aaron with CrossCountry Mortgage, and we're continuing our series with Casual Conversations. Today we have with us Jodi Smith from EXP Realty. But before we get into this video, if you would click on the like, subscribe, or comment section, and feel free to leave any comments or questions. And also make sure you don't miss out on any future updates or videos. So Jodi, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We're having this conversation, and we wanted to bring a general overall view to our audience.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share with us a little bit about your real estate experience?
Absolutely. Well, I've been in the business 26 years, and I say that because sometimes people wonder, like, how important is that? But to me, I find it important because I've gone through so many seasons of this. I've gone through many different markets in the same community, and I just think that's really important because I've seen the good, bad, and the ugly, and now I call it the crazy. So I feel like I've learned from it, and I've watched my clients learn from it. I've watched my clients navigate through it. I have clients for second, third time, over the last 26 years, and I've watched their experiences. So I'm seeing it not just through my eyes as a realtor, but I'm seeing it through their eyes as buyers and sellers over the years.
Great. And also you are now the current president of the Greater Regional Alliance of Realtors.
Yes, for the board of directors, yep. And I'm going to be done here in a few months, but that's also provided me opportunity to travel around the country and meet with people in other areas, other realtors, other brokers, owners of Coldwell Banker and Remax and all these different franchises. So I've been involved in some big conversations, big picture conversations, and then of course I'm still sitting at the kitchen table with clients too. So I've seen the spectrum.
Well, and I think that's great. You're bringing up a point where a lot of people, you've seen a lot, not only personally, but you've seen and heard a lot with experience from the other real estate agents that are out there.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, the first question I have for you is, do you feel like, well, let me ask, what's happening in the Grand Rapids or the West Michigan market for real estate?
Okay, well, I'm pretty passionate about this
Okay.
because I am from Grand Rapids. Like, I'm in the same zip code I was born in. So I'm pretty passionate about Grand Rapids. I went to college downtown Grand Rapids, and I mean, this is my home. I always feel like I'm three people from knowing everybody. But I've been watching where we're going, where we're growing, and West Michigan, I think, is just going to continue being strong. And I can shed some light on what some of those reasons why.
Yes, please.
Okay. One of them is right now we are dealing with the Great Migration. With the pandemic and things changing and shifting, we're seeing people relocate in a big way, going out of states, populating other states. And a lot of people are coming from other areas of Michigan, other areas of the country, and coming to West Michigan. We are still affordable, believe it or not, we're still affordable. And we're very desirable for so many reasons. We're very diverse in our manufacturing and in our we're in medical, auto, furniture, food. I always loved food.
Beer.
Yeah, beer.
Yeah.
And we're artistic, and we are Four Seasons, and we have great school systems, and we're just like, I kind of feel like we're the apple pie of America, and I know people see that and they love it. So
we see a lot of articles that we get from the lending perspective that talks about how desirable West Michigan is.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else about West Michigan that you see as a kind of the future, what's coming in West Michigan for the market?
Well, a couple things. Yeah, I do want to indicate, I saw Dr. Bulio. He was at one of our association functions, and many members showed up, and he indicated that Grand Rapids is seeing a 3% growth, and he's feeling like over the next 10 years he doesn't see that slowing down. We house over 80,000 college students in West Michigan, and a lot of those college students choose to keep that their home. Like they graduate from college and they're like, you know what, I like where I live, or I've enjoyed this last 4 to 6 years and I want to stay here, so they're making it their home. The other thing that I had mentioned to you before is obviously we're dealing with relocation, and people, what we've been seeing over the years is it used to be people relocated because they had a new job. Now they want to know that they're going to love where they're going to live before they accept a new job. And so we're seeing that. And the other thing I'd mention is we're actually seeing a lot of refugees coming to West Michigan. That's been that's been throughout my career, we're seeing people. But West Michigan we're very welcoming, and that's a beautiful thing. But this is where we need housing for a lot of different reasons. And that's just going to continue.
So the outlook is pretty strong for the next few years,
Absolutely.
according to that. Do you feel like it's a housing bubble?
I would say the only way I see there's a housing bubble is this past year. We've seen the inflation rate go really high on housing. I do think it's going to taper off, and that's a lot of our resources is saying, but I don't think it's going to go down. I don't think it's, and I think you too as a lender know this, we're writing better paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our loans are better paper. And people are not going to let homes go into foreclosure if they built $50,000 to $100,000 equity. I just don't see, we're in a different place than we were 13 years ago or 14 years ago, and that's what I keep reminding myself. So I think I don't know, a housing bubble. I feel like West Michigan, we might see a little slight decline, but I think we're still going to be very strong unless they can somehow come up with building 5,000 homes over the next year.
Right. So a lot of a leveling, maybe. Cut that. I had a thought in my head, and then I was going anyway. So how can we as lenders and real estate agents work together to assist our clients?
I love this one. You know that, Aaron. Okay, so I have said that I love you guys. You know, I love the relationships I have with lenders, and it's like the mom and dad relationship is what I call it, and where we need to help each other to help our clients, and we need to help each other almost say the same thing, and I mean it in a good way for our clients. The terminology, explain terminology, explain the different appraisal gap and explain escalation clause. Like if it's coming from you and it's coming from me, people need to hear things more than once. And if they're hearing it from you and they're hearing it from me, it's like it's going to stick a little bit more. It's like, okay, Jodi's not creating a new idea, or the realtor's not creating something new that I never heard about before. But these terms of escalation clause, appraisal gaps, prepare our clients on if they financially can do that. I talk about risk tolerance and risk capacity. You're going to know probably better than I am as an agent what their risk capacity is, what they can afford. You and I will both learn together what their risk tolerance is. And it's like I've mentioned before, it's like capacities. A lot of times people have a lot of capacity, but they don't have the tolerance.
Yeah.
And you need both.
Yeah.
You got to know what you're willing to afford. Now, I feel like I have a lot of risk tolerance, but my capacity might be on the small side. So your tolerance has got to match your capacity, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's important just to be able to do that. I think another thing is to provide your client with more than one option, knowing the market. It's like if they say, you know what, I want to sell, and before I buy, just prepare them on what the pros or the cons can be.
Yeah.
And of course, you might be feeling like you're speaking realtor talk, but I think we both can do it. And then as a realtor, I need to know more about the buyer situation. I get really frustrated when I just see a pre-approval letter, but I don't really know where's the funds coming from. Are the funds coming from something that it's going to take an extra week or two to receive those funds? Is it a gift? I need to understand what's behind the scenes so that I'm preparing myself and I'm not talking out of context to the other agent when I'm trying to negotiate against 7 other offers. I want to know how strong my buyer is, and also I want my buyer to know their options. If they find a home before they sell their home, is that even an option for them? Can they buy without selling? So that's an important option.
It's a lot of the same questions we get as well. So as we're going through that, I think we reference this in another video, but in a sense, the power of a team and working together to really have that same conversation and being consistent with clients so that they feel comfortable, those guardrails.
Absolutely. And I think we have to be really realistic with our clients, our buyers, and our sellers, but also I want us to be optimistic. Like, we are still in a great market. We are in a great community, and I don't want I feel like a lot of times we as lenders and as realtors, we get a little discouraged, but we can't be discouraged, because I've actually been able to find a buyer a home for $170,000. Like it can happen.
Yeah.
With 3% down. Like it can happen.
Yeah.
And I think people need to know that and hear that. I think people just need to know, and you might just lose out on a few houses. So we need to prepare the buyers on that, so the agent doesn't look like a big loser, because we're not.
Yeah, it's just maybe a
You
little
won't
more
believe
work.
how hard we're working
Yeah,
for our
absolutely.
clients.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And I would say probably harder now than in the past, just given the market.
It's really, it's very hard.
Do you see a speed at which housing is turning over that's quicker than it was before? I mean, are people moving at a faster pace, or are they staying in their home longer?
Oh, I like that question. They seem to be moving faster. I'm saying this more about the younger people, I think under 40. They seem to be moving, but there's also, I think part of it is because they're seeing appreciation in their homes. So somebody that I sold a home to in 2017, 2018 are definitely going, I got some great equity here. I've never really wanted to live here, but I couldn't afford anything. Now I can afford, and the interest rates are still attractive. And so they've got two great reasons why. Maybe their pay has gone up too, right? You're at the greatest time in your life where you're usually going to make a little bit more money in your 20s and 30s, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Do you feel there's a fear with buyers right now or sellers that if they sell their house at the top end, they'll be buying also at the top end? Mm-hmm. Is that a concern that people are sharing?
I think I always have said, no matter where you're at, unless you're moving to another part of the country that has less expensive housing, if you're going to sell high, you're going to buy high, or if you're going to sell low, you're going to buy low, right? Of course, if you buy low in one area and you move out to a lake property, you might buy high, right? I mean, I don't see that as a reason to make a decision, and I think that's something else I really would love to convey is people, a lot of things people need to move for certain reasons. It's not just because you just say, hey honey, I want to move, right? It's life happens. It could be job, it could be your health, it could be family, where you just want to be closer to family. That's a lot of things. That's what is common now. Finances. And you just have to make that move, and there's not always the right time. The right time is when it works in your life, I think. It's not, you can't outsmart the market. If we could, we would all be in a lot better shape.
Are you seeing buyer fatigue at all with people who are?
Absolutely. But I think part of that could be the lack of expectations from the front end. And I will say I've definitely had my own clients where some of them understood exactly what I was saying from day one, and some of them needed to experience it on their own. It wasn't that they didn't believe me or trust me, it's just they're like, she's probably exaggerating. And it's like, no, you guys, I'm just letting you know, we might lose 3 to 4, but I will tell you, usually the one that you end up getting really makes sense after you've gone through it. You just have to trust the agent that you're working with, and if you have to call your lender every once in a while and just say, hey, I've been thinking about this, or I'm saving money here, or I'm paying off this, is there a way I can do this? Get creative with your lender and get creative with your realtor. And I always tell my clients, I don't know what help me help you, right? Mm-hmm. Give me feedback on what's working, what's not.
So you talked a little bit about expectations right there.
Mm-hmm.
And what expectations would you share right now with a buyer above and beyond what you just shared?
My biggest one would be, well, it's not my biggest, but buyers. There's a couple of things I think buyers really do wrong, and I don't understand, even when I've told them many times. They keep looking at the brand new houses on the market. And they're also, they're not looking back at something that's been on the market for a week or 10 days or 14 days. And I got to tell you, I think even realtors are making that mistake. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, there's something wrong with it. And it's like, no, you just haven't had the right buyer yet. It might just be a 2-bedroom. It might be dated. Oh my goodness, like it might be dated. It's like, but it's got good bones. It's a good house. It's been owned by somebody for 40 years and they've taken good care of it. It's got a new roof, a new furnace. It's like we're making a lot of mistakes that way on how we're buying, how we're shopping, I would say. I think that's our biggest mistake I think buyers are making. And they're not trusting their agent on recommendations. I can't tell you how many times I'll send 5 awesome houses to my clients and go, these are homes I think we should see this week. They email me some random house that just hit the market like an hour ago. And I'm like, ay. Like that's exactly what we should not be doing. Take advice from your agent. I always tell my clients, if it's in the neighborhood you want to be in, or the area of town you want to be in, let's look at it. Don't look at the pictures. I mean, if it says 3-bedroom and it's 1.5 bath or 2 bath, I mean, let's look at it.
And we've also, a lot of that is experience where people saw the pictures and they were great, and then they walk into the home and it's not so great.
Yeah.
And then vice versa, homes that they didn't feel like would fit, when they walk in and there's a little vision behind it, they find that could be something that would really work for them. Yeah.
You want to hear one of my Jodisms?
Yeah, absolutely.
I tell my clients, all right, you're not looking for a spouse, you're looking for a house. Or in a way, you're kind of looking for, sometimes I'll say to my clients, and for my first appointment, I'll say to them, you know what? A lot of times we'll find that perfect house on paper. It's got the 2-stall garage, the fenced in backyard. And you're like, oh, this is it. And then when they get there, they're like, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like when you're looking for a spouse. It's like everything looks good on paper. Then you meet them and you're like, eh. Or the other way around. You're like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm that excited. And then you go and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome.
Better than you thought.
It happens a lot. I will tell you as a realtor, if any realtors are watching this, is I recommend to go back to the houses your client has rejected and go back to them if they're still available a week later. A lot of times we reject something because we found something else we really liked. And if we took, write an offer and we don't get it, go back to the houses that they rejected or they kind of liked, but something else trumped that, right? It's like they have a number 1 on Saturday morning. Go back to it Wednesday if you didn't get the house that you really wanted on Monday.
So a lack of patience and sometimes is a big deal, but patience can pay off too on the other ones. So what expectations then would you say would be good for sellers to have?
I think the biggest thing with sellers is they think that they can sell anything at any price, no matter what it looks like, and just based on what I just told you with the buyers are picky and they know they're paying top dollar. They want it fresh, they want it clean. It doesn't have to be all updated, but at least try to hit the big rooms, the big areas. And I think I've had some sellers go, I can just go ahead and I'm going to put it on the market and it will sell. And I'm like, no, you're going to take a reduction and you're not going to get the offers. You got to show that it's cleaned up, it's well taken care of, and take an extra month in getting things cleaned out. Take an extra month, pay a couple $100 to get the windows cleaned, pay somebody to clean your house if you don't want to clean it. I will tell you, it will pay off. You will get your money back, double, triple. I mean, depending on the price point in the area, it will pay off. And that's probably the biggest thing, sellers. Also, for sellers, especially people my age and older, we grew up in a generation that you ask this much and then you have room to negotiate down. The last 3 years, we had to completely change our way of pricing. And that is, you don't price where you want to end up. You price where you know is a good price, a good value, and you're going to encourage multiple showings and hopefully more than one offer. So that's another thing.
A little bit of a change.
So if anyone's watching this over 50, you have to know that.
Okay.
I mean that with love too. But,
So you mentioned just some of these expectations. What are ways that you personally help or assist your buyers in their journey? Whether it's setting expectations, do you give them a package of information? What's your process of helping them?
I always try to do a one-on-one appointment with the buyer before I go out and show them home. Sometimes that's not possible. And I also have a sheet that talks about how to not be part of the crazy market and preparing them on how important it is to have that pre-approval with the lender. Don't wait until you find the house, because usually you find the house on Sunday and, call them Aaron or Jason or Becky. Yeah, on Sunday is not ideal, especially if we want to get that pre-approval letter submitted, because offers are always written on Sundays. I don't know what it is, but we just happen to work that way. So get that pre-approval letter, and it's not something that's a 15-minute turnaround from a buyer calling you to getting it done.
It's not like the old days. Yeah.
No, it's like you really want to make sure that you've seen not all the documentation, but asked all the right questions. Where are the funds coming from? Is your income including overtime? You have a lot of questions. And is there anything that's not that I should know about that's not on your credit report?
Right.
Right? We have lots of questions. So get that pre-approval letter. Also talking about how to shop for houses. So how to handle the crazy market and setting those expectations. Prepare them on terminology when I talk about appraisal gap. Also escalation clause, what that looks like. And inspections is another big conversation that I have to have with my clients. Some of my clients are buying their third or fourth home, and they just might look at something and go, Jodi, I'm not worried about inspections on this. I know houses. I've owned 5 houses in my last 20 years. I'm good with what I'm getting. Again, that's at risk tolerance and at risk capacity. And they think they feel like if there's any surprises, they can afford that surprise, as long as it's not like the house is caving in.
Right. So what do you do then to assist your sellers? Besides grabbing some paint and going and painting
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I do that. You wouldn't believe. I show them, I give them the tools on what needs to be done. Like you walk room by room and help clients, your prospective sellers, see the home, what needs to be done. I also tell them this is something I learned in art college, is sometimes I tell my clients to look through their own camera on their phone and look at what that room looks like and tell me what you think that will look like. And they're like, oh, yeah, I never liked that dresser there, or I never liked that wall color. It's like, okay, that's how you have to look at your own home. And you have to remind your sellers that their first showing is online. But I also provide all the vendors that can help them. I think that's really important, because a lot of times it can be a really overwhelming for a seller if they are like, I don't even know who to call to pick this up or donate this. And the other thing is, I have paint chips in my car. I always go to the best neutral colors for the new year, and I help my clients pick out paint colors if they really want to paint that yellow kitchen or something like that. I mean, try to streamline it for your clients, because again, they're looking at this to-do list, and if you can funnel it as a realtor and funnel it down to simplify it, I think it really helps them, and it's going to pay off.
And for a lot of people, it's very personal. It's their personal home, and so letting go of their style or letting go of their vision sometimes takes that outside person to look at it.
But you know what I find really interesting is how the sellers forget that when they become buyers. I find that fascinating. I'm like, now you didn't look at your house that way, but when you go into another person's home, now you're wearing your buyer hat, and now you're looking at it so differently. And then they look at me and they're like, Jodi, now I understand why you told me to paint that wall or get rid of that themed bedroom, or
That's a great point. We've done a video about emotions, managing your emotions during this process, because there are so many. And as you go through, whether it's pre-approval to during the process and moving, and it's a lot going on. And so I think that those tips are great and strong to do that.
I have one more tip too for buyers.
Okay.
And that is, this is a really common mistake I think buyers make, is they don't find what they want in their neighborhood. They don't find this. So all of a sudden they start showing me a link to a home in Big Rapids. And I'm like, wait a minute, you work out by the airport. Yeah, but Jodi, this is the perfect house. And I'm like, listen, I can find you the perfect man, but if he's in Alaska, it's not going to do you any good, right? So don't stretch yourself to an area you don't really want to live in. I mean, yeah, you might find the perfect house, but why are we way up here? Why are we an hour and a half from work when you got daycare in Kentwood? And I don't understand. So that's the biggest mistake that we make as buyers, I think.
So you covered, you were going into mistakes. So are there other mistakes that you can think of just off the top of your head that either buyers or sellers are making at this point?
I think the only thing I really want to indicate is you've got to communicate to your agent what you're looking for. And if something changes, that's really common. It's okay. You don't offend us if you don't like the house that I'm showing you. You do not offend me at all. Mm-hmm. This is how we learn. And even though that might be a great house, it's not the great house for you, and that's okay. But let me help you. Give me the information I need. Because a lot of times as realtors, we know something that's coming up, or we might know a neighborhood that we haven't even talked about, because based on the feedback you're giving me, I'm like, we're in the wrong area of town, or we're in the wrong price point. Maybe we need to be looking at this, and then you can afford that. So I think we just have to be a lot more transparent, and I think as realtors and lenders, we have to ask more questions. I've indicated that too. We need to slow down. You're working at a very fast pace as a lender. I'm working at a very fast pace as a realtor. We need to slow down. We just need to take a step back, ask some questions, and ask more questions. Get the answer and ask more questions. I also think a mistake I've made as a realtor, if you're a past client of mine, Erin, let's say I helped you buy a house 4 years ago and this was your situation, I shouldn't assume that 4 years later that your life is in the same place with your job, with your relationships, with what's important to you, So make sure that as a realtor, you're doing that with your past clients as well. And one more.
Yeah.
You just helped a client refinance 2 years ago, and now they want to move. They won't remember anything that they had to do. So again, the terminology, the documentation, you feel like you're repeating yourself. But that's part of the process, and we have to remind ourselves as lenders and as realtors that this is something we do every day. It's the lingo that we use every day. Our clients don't remember. We just don't remember. So
well, it needs analysis in a lot of ways. We ask the questions up front. People come to us, what's the lowest rate? Well, but that's not always the best, because what's your situation?
Exactly.
And that situation might be they might only be there for 3 years. Well, what does that mean? And so a lot of these questions, while it seems so easy just simply to go online and apply for a mortgage, it's so easy to go online and find a home. It's really a needs analysis to understand the idea of how it fits into your life. And I think that's such a big piece that's missed in what's going on.
I do have one more mistake.
Sure.
I have a lot of people that have waited until the housing market comes down. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you money.
How so?
Interest rates are going up, and I don't see how home values are going to go down. I just don't. It might not go up as high as it did this past 9 months or 10 months, but it's not going down. I've seen this, 6-7 years now, we've been seeing it climb, and
So the cost of waiting.
The cost of waiting, and then I also say it's the cost of you're not living your life the way you want to live your life. Live your life. Like, live in that home that you have worked so hard to do, or get closer to your kids, or get closer to whatever your story is, live it.
Yeah.
Forget trying to navigate through the numbers.
All right. So, Jodi, I really appreciate the conversation. Is there anything else that you want to add to anything that you've stated already, or just an extra tip?
The only other thing I was going to suggest as lenders is if somebody's wanting to refinance and they've been there 5 years, 10 years, maybe just ask one more question, like, why are you, and maybe not why, but what are you thinking? Is this something that you're going to be here for 3 years or 5 more years? Just like what you mentioned is, find out what their story is before, because maybe they're just shy, or they've heard the news about what's going on in the market and they don't think they can compete, but they're sitting in their 4,000 square foot home, and the kids are grown, and they don't need that 4,000 square foot home. I mean, I think that would encourage inventory, but also it would encourage, this is an opportunity for them to buy what they really need to buy now before rates start going up, and let them live their life, so.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all great information. We appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. We hope it was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below, and we're happy to respond. Look forward to talking to you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.